Imagine getting a call from your bank. The number looks real, the voice sounds professional, and within 5 minutes, your money is gone. That's the level modern scams have reached. But Google just announced some massive Android security and privacy upgrades for 2026. And honestly, some of these features feel straight out of the cybersecurity research labs. From AI powered scam detection to anti theft protections to verify if your Android operating system itself is fake. Let's break down everything Google announced in simple words. So, this is Google official blog post. What's new in Android security and privacy in 2026? We'll go section by section, exactly like the blog, and I'll explain what these features actually mean in the real world. Google starts with one of the biggest modern threats, banking scams. And the scary part is, scammers no longer need hacking skills. They mainly rely on psychology. This is called social engineering. For example, you get a call that looks like it's from your bank. The caller says your account is under attack. They panic you, then they ask for OTPs, transfers, or sensitive details. And because the caller ID looks real, people trust it. This technique is called caller ID spoofing. Now here's what Android is introducing. If you already have your bank's official app installed and logged in, Android can quietly verify whether the bank is actually calling you. So when a suspicious call arrives, claiming to be from your bank, Android checks with the banking app itself in the background. If the app says, no, we are not calling this user right now, Android can automatically end the call. And that's huge. Think about it like this. Earlier, Android only checked the phone number. Now it's checking whether the bank itself confirms the call. And that's completely different level of protection. And they also mentioned something called inbound only numbers. Some banks have numbers that only receive calls and never make outgoing calls. So if scammers spoof those numbers and try calling you, Android can instantly block them. And Google says this will start rolling out on the Android 11 and above, with the banks like Revolt, Itaú, and Nubank first, and then later they expand further. Now, this part is honestly one of the most interesting security upgrade here. Google is heavily pushing on on-device AI security. Android already had something called live threat detection. Basically, your phone watches how apps behave in real time. Not just is the app is malware, but is this app suddenly acting suspiciously or not? For example, imagine you install some random app. Later, that app secretly forwards your SMS messages to another phone number. And that's dangerous because SMS often contains OTPs, verification codes, banking alerts, and login approvals. Now, Android can warn you if apps start doing that. Another thing Google mentions is accessibility overlay abuse. This is actually very common in Android malware. Malicious apps abuse accessibility permissions to place invisible layers on your screen. So you think you are clicking on one thing, but actually the malware is making you approve something else in the background. Kind of like putting invisible buttons on the top of your screen. And now this part is very important. Google introduces something called dynamic signal monitoring. And this basically means Android continuously monitors suspicious app behavior patterns in real time. For example, an app hides its icon, launches secretly in the background, or abuses accessibility services. Android can dynamically detect those behaviors. And the interesting part is, Google says they can push new detection techniques and rules dynamically, meaning Android security can adapt faster to new attacks techniques without waiting for massive operating system updates. And then we have another small but important upgrade. Chrome on Android will now analyze APK files before download itself if the safe browsing is enabled. So if you try to downloading a potentially malicious app from the internet, Chrome can stop you before installation even happens. This one. This section is basically Android saying if you are a high risk target, we've got something stronger protection for you. And this feature is called advanced protection. Think of a journalist, activists, researchers, and executives, or anyone targeted by the sophisticated attacks. One feature they mention is USB protection. So this helps against attacks when someone connects malicious USB devices to your phone. For example, at airports or conferences, public charging stations, a malicious device could try to extract data or exploiting the phone. USB protection reduces those kind of risks. And then there is intrusion logging. And this is really interesting. If your device is suspected of compromise, Android can securely preserve forensic logs for investigation, basically keeping security evidence safely stored. Google mentioned they developed this with organizations like Amnesty International and Reporters Without Borders. Now with Android 17, Google is tightening things even further. Apps that are not genuine, accessibility tools will lose access to accessibility services under advanced protection. And this matters because accessibility permissions are one of the most abused attack vectors on the Android. And they are also adding scam detection for chat notification. So Android is increasingly become proactive instead of reactive. And then we have this. This section focuses on stolen phones. And honestly, modern phone theft is no longer just about losing your hardware. If attackers access your banking apps, OTPs, passwords, or accounts, the financial damage can become much bigger than the phone itself. Google is improving the mark as lost feature. This one. Earlier, if thieves somehow knew your PIN, they still had a chance to regain access. Now Android can require biometric authentication after a device is marked lost. So even if someone knows the PIN, they may still need your fingerprint or face to unlock. And when a phone is marked lost, Android also disables certain quick actions like turning off tracking, adding new Wi-Fi connections, connecting new Bluetooth devices, basically making it harder for thieves to isolate and reset the device. And this next upgrade is underrated. Android 17 reduces how many attackers can rapidly guess your PIN or password, and it adds longer delays between failed attempts. This directly targets brute force attacks. Google also says theft protections are becoming enabled by default on newer Android devices, and in some regions, they are expanding these protections even to the older Android versions. And now, devices can show the IMEI from the lock screen itself. Why does it matter? Because the IMEI is basically the unique identity number of your phone. So the law enforcement or carriers can verify the ownership more easily. Now we move to privacy controls. One of the coolest additions here is temporary precise location sharing. Imagine you open a maps or food app to quickly find nearby cafes. Normally apps may ask for continuous location access, right? Now Android can allow precise location only while the app is actively open. Once you close the app, the access ends. Android is also improving transparency. Just like the camera and microphone indicators, you will now get clearer indicators when the app accesses your location. And then there is a new contact picker. This is actually a really smart privacy improvement. Earlier, many apps requested access to your entire contact list just to select one friend. Now apps can request access to only specific contacts temporarily. That follows a big modern privacy principle. Give apps only the minimum access they actually need. This section gets more technical. Google talks about securing AI itself. They mention private compute core and private AI compute. The basic idea is AI features often process highly sensitive data, your voice, typing patterns, notifications, and personal context. Google says Android 17 introduces technologies like AI Seal with PKVM to isolate and secure the data processing. Think of it like creating a highly secure room inside your phone itself when sensitive AI processing happens separately from the rest of your system. And this next feature is honestly very important for security researchers. Google says some attackers distribute modified Android operating systems that look official, but secretly contain malicious modifications. So, Android 17 introduces Android operating system verification, initially on Pixel devices. This helps user verify whether they are running an official Android build or not. And this part is fascinating. Google talks about using a public append-only ledger. In simple words, imagine a public security notebook that permanently records authentic Google software releases. If an app or system build isn't listed there, that's suspicious. This improves transparency because security researchers and users can independently verify the authenticity. Now we move into network and telecom protections. Android will now automatically hide OTP messages from most apps for 3 hours. Why? Because malware often abuses SMS permissions to steal the verification codes. Google also talks about disabling 2G connectivity by default in the most cases. This matters because older cellular technologies like 2G have weaker security protections. And then finally, Google mentions about post-quantum cryptography. And this is futures-focused security because eventually quantum computers could break some current encryption systems. So companies are already preparing cryptographic systems that can survive that particular future. So overall, this is not just Android adding random security features. Google is clearly moving towards AI-powered protection, real-time behavior detection, stronger anti-theft systems, and privacy-first permissions, and verifiable trust for Android itself. And honestly, some of these features are becoming necessary because modern attacks are evolving insanely fast. So, if you want to read the complete blog post from Google, I have linked it in the description below. Definitely check it out because there are even more technical details there. And if you enjoy security, privacy, Android internals, or cybersecurity breakdowns explained simply, subscribe because we will be covering more topics like this. See you in the next one. Stay safe out there and remember, we'll keep it simple.